wage earners, and I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but there is a free tax service that if you go to irs.gov, and TurboTax and a few of the other tax services have some free services out there that you can actually go through and prepare your own tax returns. And I have made my kids go through that process the last few years, and it really walks you through what you need to be aware of and what you need to do. So it's a great place to start. They prompt you with a lot of questions as you're preparing the tax return. One of the things, and it's interesting, and if you've graduated, you're probably beyond that, but I've watched a lot of college kids do this, and both of mine tried it. They want to take themselves as their own exemption on their own tax return, where their parents usually have that right and probably have a better tax benefit for taking the kids as a deduction on their own tax return. But typically the kids are excited and they file their tax return right away to get the refund, and then the parents file a little bit later and the kid took the exemption. And you can't, the student, the child can't take the exemption and the parents can't take the exemption. So you really want to plan that out with your parents. But I think it's, again, back to the caller's question, great service. irs.gov, they've got some free tax services. There are a lot of those applications. They really walk you through a lot of the questions. Now it's interesting, as you become more complex, and Nick might even add in a few minutes here, some of the interest deductions that now as a graduated student, you'll have the ability to take deduction for some of your expenses against that income. But one of the things you want to do is just, as your tax situation gets more and more complex, you want to do some research. We actually had a client that said they thought their tax situation got a lot simpler this year. So they thought they would use the TurboTax and do their own tax, and they got halfway through it, and they started working on the brokerage statements. And we'll get back to the brokerage statements in a minute too. One of the more complex areas. And as they were doing that, trying to import all of the transactions, kind of threw up their hands and said, wait a minute, I can't figure this out. We'd love to have your help once again. So it really seems like, as Nick was saying with the fiscal cliff and everything really becomes an addition to our tax law. So every year, very few things drop off, things we don't have to remember anymore. It just adds and becomes more and more complex every year. So that's why people still go to the professionals, the advisors, to make sure it's done right.
They're not missing anything either. Good luck to you, caller, and of course visit these guys maybe 10 years from now. We're going to take a quick break, show you what's coming up next week. Right now, Ask the CPA. And next week, Community Connection, so don't miss that April event. Ask the CPA, keep calling in with your questions, free advice. You want to expand on that at all, Nick?
On the caller's question?
On the caller's question?
Well, I think the caller, she mentioned that she was recently graduated from college, and there are actually 3 different opportunities to save some money.
Cool.
The first one is a deduction.
Oh, put on a standby. Another caller.
Okay.
Hi, caller. What's your question, please? Hi, caller.
My question is 2 parts.
Yes,
First, I would like to know what the rules and regulations are concerning previously filed tax returns. I realized that I had a lot of medical expenses and did not take the opportunity to claim a lot of those that were out-of-pocket costs. So I'd like to know how I can go back and make corrections to see if I'm owed refunds. And then additionally, my question is concerning those credits that you mentioned earlier. What is, I guess, the federal government's position on those who accept public assistance who are not earning income, but they're filing tax returns and they're getting everything returned back? What's the difference between that and things like you've mentioned of earned income credit, please?
Sure. I'll start with the, some of your credits are what we refer to as refundable credits. So the only way that you can get a refund is if you've paid tax in, I guess a refundable one, and then there's non-refundable ones. So I guess a non-refundable one would be you had to pay tax in to get any money back. A refundable one is whether you've paid tax or not paid tax, you get a refund and you get money back, such as the earned income credit. So certain credits qualify and other credits don't qualify, depending on whether they're refundable or non-refundable. In addition to your amending your previous filed tax return, it's referred to as an amending a previously filed tax return to 1040X. You usually can go back 3 years from the date the tax return was filed, and what you'd want to do before you even went through that process is to look at those years, your adjusted gross income, and you take your adjusted gross income times 7.5%. Any of your